All right, good morning, traders. TG Watkins here. Get me a second to get up and running. So, wanted to bring you guys over to Twitter, I guess, or X, however we want to be calling it, and want to show you guys that basically I did another video, but basically bullish stocks leading into 2024. Some of my favorite long-term holds. We just did this one yesterday, so we posted up on the social medias and everywhere else. So if you guys want to come take a look at that, it also dovetails very well into my 2024 trading outlook. Basically, I think that the market is bullish, and I think we're going to keep going up. And of course, there will be pullbacks and corrections and dips and stuff like that. But generally speaking, 2024 looks like it's shaping up to be a pretty good year. So looking forward to that. I'm pretty happy about it. If you guys want to come check out a few things like that. Good morning, Mirza and Omera. Thank you for checking in on that. So yeah, come on over, take a look at it, and yeah, leave some comments, see what you guys think. Now, let's also take a look at breadth because this has been very interesting. So as I've been saying over the last few weeks, there we go. Let me get my Camtasia. That's what's going on here. So over the last few weeks, we've been saying like, look, that at the end of December, coming into the new year, the market was extremely overbought, and basically everything was up. Everything was to the high side. Everything was over its 20-day here, and everything was over its 50-day, and most everything moved along its 200-day as well. And so basically, we needed the market to build in some room in order to move up again. And that's where you could see the number of stocks over the 20 days really fall off. And, it went to a level 30, about 30%, which is kind of right in that range. Let me see, right? This line right here. I could draw it straight, but you can see that is an area where it likes to go about. And, 2023 was a bit of a challenging year. Not everything was participating. We had kind of these, feast or famine type moves and modes. And the mega caps were the ones that were really leading. So it seemed that the breadth needed to go a little bit lower than 30%. This was an exception right there, a little bit lower than 30% in order to rebound. So the other one that I'm kind of noticing, and I think that this is very interesting underneath the surface right here. So you can see here that it really only went down to about 30%. And the market mostly went sideways, but underneath the surface, there were a lot of stocks that were rotating and cycling down. And we were, a lot of us were wondering, like, hey, does this mean that breadth is deteriorating underneath the surface and that it's going to pull the market down because everything else is moving down? Or does it mean that underneath the surface, things were actually taking a breather, cycling down, and the strong stocks were still holding, and then they were just waiting for, in this case, it was the debt ceiling resolution and the floodgates to open? And so that's what we were looking at there, and that's what happened. So I'm kind of wondering the same thing in through here. Clearly, the market's still up; it doesn't need much of a rest. But I'm wondering if that's kind of what happened in through here. The market did take a bit of a rest. The IWM cycled down, and you can see that a lot of names did cycle down too, gave us some breathing room. And I'm kind of wondering about this. I wonder how much more room that the 50-day might have needed. But yeah, overall, it apparently built in enough breathing room, and it decided to move up. Now, I still think there's just a touch more work for the IWM to do, because you could see IWM looks a lot like that breadth indicator, doesn't it? To where, there we go, to where we had price come down to the daily 50 and it just bounced. Now, we do not have a legit setup here yet on the hourly chart. Notice that price is over the hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator is below zero. That is not a confirmed uptrend yet. That's not a confirmed go signal. So us over in the Moxie room, I've been talking and telling them exactly what we're looking for and what we should be seeing and how the Moxie indicator, along with its rules, should present this to us and say, okay, now we're ready to go. So we're waiting for that. We're looking for a little bit of a pullback on the IWM. And you can see that going into it, there wasn't quite an hourly setup. You can see that price went lower, and the Moxie indicator didn't go that much lower, but it did go lower. We didn't see the greatest of divergent setup. So now I'm still looking for that next divergent setup on the hourly chart. What did give us a really good setup was on the 15-minute time frame, which, hey, moves have to start someplace, and for me, they start on the 15-minute time frame. And that's what we saw. And I even called this out on Friday right there. But you could see price down, Moxie indicator up, and there you go. There's the Moxie indicator looking nice and tight. And there was price holding the 15-minute 50. And there was a move. Sure, yeah, there was a nice move on the IWM. There were a fair number of stocks that have also taken that move. But you can see it kind of looks like the IWM is kind of stalling out in through here, isn't it? Just kind of not quite getting it done. You can see it kind of pop up, and it just can't quite get it done. So I'm looking for one more bit of a pullback. I'm looking for some divergence. I'm looking for the next legitimate setup on the hourly time frame. So basically, what we saw here on the 15 with that setup, I'm looking for the equivalent of that on the hourly time frame, and I think that should really set us up for the market to go higher. And then it'll be interesting to see what this breadth indicator looks like. Probably in through here. I'm not expecting this to keep moving up. I actually want to see if it pulls back a little bit, maybe does a little bit of this, gives us some chop, kind of builds a base. Because right now this is just a V bottom. And I want to see if there's going to be some sort of double bottom, or retest, or just kind of hammering out a low of some sort like that. Some other names that I've been looking at that I think kind of demonstrate this and say, we've had a first move, but I'm waiting for the next bigger, larger move that actually sets up on the hourly chart. Notice Carvana. It's actually given us a really good situation too. You can see here how price went lower, the Moxie indicator went higher, and just like the IWM, there was your first move. And it was a decent move, but you got to be quick about it because it's only setting up on the 15-minute time frame. Okay, so if it's only going to be a 15-minute time frame, that's a small time frame. You got to have your expectations be reasonable. So yeah, sure, it went roughly 14, 15%, but look, it's all the way back down here now, okay? So you need quick trades if they set up on a low time frame like that. Now setting up on the daily and hourly, now that's going to be a bigger trade. And this so far, if you go, those of you who are in the Moxie room, been seeing the posts that I've been talking about, Carvana is doing exactly what I want it to be doing. Now we just have to be patient and wait and see when this pullback actually finds some support, then we can go up. So that's looking pretty good. And those of you in the Moxie room, like, you see exactly what Carvana is doing in regard to what IWM is doing and what I want to be seeing for it. All right, so we got that, and even W. W was one of the early leaders. Gosh, was that Friday? I guess that was Friday. Yeah. So Friday, it popped up before even the IWM started to catch and hook. So I don't know if that was news or something. Clearly, there was a lot of volume that came in that day. So maybe there was news. But you can see how W and Carvana and IWM are all doing the same thing. And I'm very excited about that. We're really looking forward to that. Now, W did actually have more divergence. Look at this. Price down, Moxie indicator up. Okay, so that actually had some pretty good divergence. But yeah, that one's looking pretty good. Quite a few names that are in this, these configurations, these setups, and that's what I'm looking for, is kind of the next wave for the small caps to come on board, because I think that's going to be that should be a lot of fun when those things get going. Probably part of it is going to be the TNX. The TNX has been moving up. This is why the market had some pressure put on it, but you can see that it was moving up a little bit like that. And I would imagine that at some point this is going to run into some resistance, and we'll have to see if it rolls back over. The market has been extremely inversely correlated to the TNX. So yeah, keep an eye on that one. All right, B1, good morning to you. Let's see, ZYXI. It reminds me of, I guess we even do it nowadays, but as a kid, like XYZ, examine your zipper. All right, let's see. So let me get looking at here at the higher time frame. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Is this biotech? Feels like a biotech name. What is Zynex? Let me look that up real quick, because that might help me. ZYXI. And it is healthcare. Okay, close. Medical distribution. All right, so that feels a little bit better. Biotech can be a little bit tough, mostly because if they're like a true straight up biotech where they have a clinical test or report or something like that, if they pass or fail, the stock can go up or down by 60%. It's just overnight based on news, and you'll never know it because you're not an insider. Yeah, healthcare, medical products and equipment. Okay, so it doesn't look too shabby. If we look at the higher time frame, look at the weekly chart. Notice that there's well, let me draw that better. There you go. There's your double bottom. There's your positive divergence. So yeah, that's looking good. There's your Moxie price trigger right on cue, so that's nice. Notice how the Moxie price trigger is happening right as price is crossing the 50, as opposed to this one that was a little bit late. So sure, there can be a move, but it doesn't always mean it's the strongest move. And this did not have divergence. Notice how price went down, price went up. Notice how the Moxie indicator down, Moxie indicator went up. So this is a lot of what I'm seeing out there, and this is why I am pretty bullish on 2024, because we are seeing double bottoms with positive divergence on the higher time frames like the monthly, weekly, and such. But yeah, that's looking pretty good from this time frame. Yes, it got a little overbought here. You can see there was a gap, and what it do? It pulled back to its moving averages. So yeah, that looks like a nice flag type situation there. And if we come down to the lower time frames, we look at this nice 5250 maneuver right there, and basically it has been holding the daily 50s pretty good. Now, the only caveat that I could give, B1, to this is a lot of times when I see the 50 cross over the 200, I do also see it dip just below the 50 at some point. So you just need to make sure that, this thing could still flag in a range. It's definitely possible. Notice here you do have price over the 50, but the Moxie indicator below 0. So we'll have to see if it continues. So because it seems to have a habit of doing that. I mean, look at that. This one, jumped up and just ran over the hourly 50 and then pulled back later. Same thing here. It just jumped up and ran over the hourly 50. So it'll be interesting to see if that is its characteristic, and later it will deal with the hourly 50. But if not, if it doesn't do it again this time, just be prepared that price might need to follow and dip to the hourly 50. Hard to say, because this one actually has that personality that it seems to like to just jump up. But yeah, generally speaking, looking pretty good. Yep, overall. And then let's see, PHR, Prudential. Oh, yeah, I've been seeing a lot of financial and insurance companies starting to do well, like really well. I think they've been raising their rates, is what I understand. So, maybe this is just the beginning of its move. I might be a little bit more interested in other names, but kind of the same thing as that medical healthcare one. Look, there's your double bottom, there's your positive divergence, and I'm sure the Moxie indicator is probably very close to firing. So that looks, good there. And you do have the 8 crossing over the 21, but yeah, the only other thing I could say is that this thing has already had a pretty good move. So Alan, if you look that here, it's gone from the low to kind of the high. So Alan, one of the things that I actually did learn from John Carter that I really do like are these third ATRs. Okay, it's a bit of a misnomer, but they are Keltner channels, and it's the third factor based off the 21 SMA. And what I notice a lot of times is when price goes from the low of 1 to the high of 1, it's going to have to take a break. So I'm not saying that this thing's going to pull back or be the end of the move or anything else like that. It's kind of coming into that third ATR, which tends to be resistance. It's coming into the 50. And if I'm looking here, let me draw a line right about there. You can see what else is lining up. Here's a level and here's a level, and you're kind of coming close to that. So just in the big picture type thing, because we are looking at the weekly time frame, it might be 85% done with this particular move before it maybe needs to do a pullback before it can start again. That's just kind of what I see from this time frame. So then if we look at this on the daily chart, let's see what else that says. And I'm seeing kind of the same thing. So Alan, there are a lot of, like when you and I first met each other and started talking, I don't know how many of my formations I really had formulated at the time, but one of them that I've really come across and I enjoy is the 50, 200, 50 maneuver. So what I'm noticing is here is price coming up to the underside of a downtrending daily 200. Okay, oftentimes around this area, and sometimes it can be up here, it can be down here, but the whole idea is that at some point the 200 becomes resistance, and you do pull back to the 50. So Alan, I don't know what your position is or where you got into this or anything else like this, but what I'm going to say is be prepared that at some point price is most likely going to come down to meet the 50, wherever, whatever that looks like, however it means. It could even dip below it, and we don't know if it's going to continue, But what I would say is be prepared for a pullback like that, and if it eventually holds and then moves back up, then that would be the next bullish area that you could go in on. Okay, so just here you go, a little bit of a microcosm, Alan. So do you see that this looks like this? And if you see that, then you now know exactly why I'm talking about this and what you should at least be prepared for. You should be prepared that there could be a pullback like this. And then what you need to do is confirm if it's going to go up after that pullback. So just be prepared. It might come down like this, and then you have to confirm that it goes up. Okay. So there you go. Pretty good example right there between that hourly chart and daily chart. So yeah, just be a little bit careful because I'm also seeing that price is trying to go up and the Moxie indicator is lagging a little bit. Might kind of be at the end of this particular move. All right, so we all know that the SPY has been doing pretty great, big move up there. The only thing I can say at some point, it's getting a little bit frothy. So just be prepared that along the way there could be little pullbacks. We just kind of see like this was getting a little frothy, took a little break. This got a little frothy, a little bit more of a pullback. And this seems like it gets a little bit frothy. There might be a little bit of a pullback. Still clearly in an uptrend, just, might need a little bit of a pullback here and there. And if we can time those, then that'll help you get better entries, better setups and positions for your stuff. Now, in that presentation that I have on Twitter about my kind of like long-term stocks to be looking at, one of the things that people keep talking about is Bitcoin. So if we look at Bitcoin itself from the higher time frame, let's all be prepared and understand, Bitcoin was a buy the rumor, sell the news. And you could see it came up here, hit some resistance right there on the monthly chart, that third ATR, and basically right in the middle of its previous all-time high. So you have to kind of think about this as a big vat of honey. Think about Pooh Bear and his honey jar, and this is just really thick honey. And here's price trying to get through that, and it's right in the middle of it. It's the thickest that it's ever been. It's going to run into some natural resistance. Now, it could continue to push through and maybe it pulls back and settles in a little bit. Maybe it's going to flag for a little bit and then keep going. Sure. But you got to think about all this area is just a big, thick thing of molasses or honey or something. And I think that's partly what it's running into. So, yes, it's pulling back a little bit, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be too bad. I just think it needs to consolidate a little bit, got a little up there, ran into resistance. Let's see what it can do about settling in. And I think also what that means for things like the Bitcoin miners is we just have to let them also settle. They had a huge run up on big volume, got super overbought. And, the things that go up like rockets also come down like rocks. And that's kind of what we've been seeing from some of the crypto miners. We've seen it before too. So I do think that they are in uptrends. I do think that a lot of volume is coming into them. But if you're going to trade them, you kind of have to, either get them when they go up and then just get out, or you need to be prepared for big moves up and down both ways. But that being said, it has corrected quite a bit, and I want to see if this eventually comes into support. And that's kind of just something I'm casually watching. Like they're just not even close to being ready, but I have noticed they've come down a lot, and so I am watching them, seeing if I can find clues to when these things are, I mean, look at this thing right back into bulk bulk of support even through here. I mean, look at that line. That is a pretty good line of support and resistance right there. So that's another reason why I'm looking at stuff like Riot and even Hive, Cipher, BT. They're just look at that right back to an area of potential support. So, yep, I want to see if they start setting up again at some point. So, kind of watching those in the background. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for tuning in. Always enjoy these lively Wednesday sessions with you. Thanks for kind of asking some questions. Alan, I hope you're doing well out there. And then for the rest of you, I'm just going to be in the chat room. Let me know what you guys are looking at. And really specifically for the Moxie group, I want to see if that IWM does a little bit of a pullback and then help set us up for something good. All right, guys. Thanks again. And be sure to come over here and take a look at some of the videos that I put out. They're on YouTube, they're on Twitter, they're on our Facebook, they're everywhere. All right, guys. Thanks again. Catch you later.